I'm Steve Rice. And I've been asked to introduce this guy that we all came to honor here tonight. Although I became acquainted with Bill around 1980, I really got to know him well in the early 90s when we spent about a year politicking the graduate tax program into existence in the business school. It was during this process that we bonded for life. This period of time was when I first discovered how irreverently funny Bill is, how intelligent, how creative, how hardworking, how dedicated, and most of all, how caring he is for his friends, colleagues, and students. In thinking about what to say tonight, I asked myself this question: what has it meant to me to be a partner with Bill in the tax program for all these years? Simple answer: everything. I couldn't have had a better colleague than Bill. When you're puzzling over some court case and wondering how in the world the judges could have ruled that way, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters? No, Bill Resler. He'll yak it out with you as long as you want, and he'll enjoy it. When you can't figure out what Congress meant when it passed that confusing Internal Revenue Code section, and you've got to cover it in the next class that you're teaching, who are you going to call? Bill Resler. When you want to make sure that passive capital gains can release both capital losses and passive activity losses, who are you going to call? That's right, Bill Resler. But Bill's incredible value as a colleague is only part of what I meant when I said everything. His value as a friend is even higher. Besides sharing a love of teaching tax that we share, we also share a love of basketball, music, although different kinds, card games, and vampires. I know that I can go to Bill with any personal topic in the world and he will listen and have something insightful to say, usually in a way that makes you laugh. His sense of humor is world-renowned. We all know that. Can anyone ever forget the sound of that great laugh of his? I'm sure that many of us in this room could tell dozens of stories about what a loyal friend he is. I'll share just one story. Back in 1999, I was between marriages and living with only the companionship of my adorable cat, whose name was Lurch. I loved that cat, and he had been with me for 15 years. Bill happened to call me up one day just to see what was going on, and I told him that I was in the process of beautifying my yard to make a final resting place for Lurch, because the next day the vet was coming to put Lurch down due to his extended illness. Bill, of course, understood my pain because he's Bill. He sympathized with me over the phone, and we chatted, and he hung up. I went back to working on the yard. About an hour later, Bill shows up. He's bringing with him some flowers and his guitar. He played and sang for me while I finished the yard. It was a touching moment, and I'll never, ever forget it. That's the kind of man Bill Resler is, a man who cares about others. That caring persona is what has made him a great teacher, colleague, and friend. That's why so many of you came here tonight to honor him. Even when he was torturing you with his demented exam questions, you still knew that he cared about you as people. Now, before I bring him up here, I want to share some song lyrics with you. This song I'm not going to sing them, I promise. This song is entitled The Cape, and it was written by a Texas singer-songwriter named Guy Clark. The first time I heard this song, I thought, It must have been written about Bill Resler. And part of it goes like this. He's 8 years old with a flour sack cape tied all around his neck. He climbed up on the garage. He's figuring, what the heck? He screwed his courage up so tight that the whole thing came unwound. He got a running start, and bless his heart, he headed for the ground. Well, he's one of those who knows that life is just a leap of faith. Spread your arms and hold your breath, and always trust your cape. Now he's all grown up with a flour sack cape tied all around his dream. He's full of piss and vinegar, and he's busting at the seam. Well, he licked his finger and he checked the wind. It's going to be do or die. He wasn't scared of nothing, boys. He was pretty sure he could fly. Now he's old and gray with a flour sack cape tied all around his head. He's still jumping off the garage and will be till he's dead. All these years the people said he was acting like a kid. He did not know he could not fly, and so he did. Yes, he's one of those who knows that life is just a leap of faith. Spread your arms and hold your breath, and always trust your cape. So come on up here, Bill, and receive this little gift I have for you.
I don't know quite how to say this, but I've changed my mind about it. I am beyond honored that you students and former students and friends and colleagues and my Duchess buds showed up here to make sure that I'm really retiring. It's honestly with a heavy heart that I do this, because teaching was not my career, it is my calling. In addition to teaching tax, I've taught bridge, high school girls basketball, and backgammon. I do not find it a coincidence that two very, very similar people retired in this year. That would be Bill Resler and Kobe Bryant. He only lasted 20 years. I lasted 43. I have been to many retirements, and I plan to break new ground tonight, because in this speech I'm going to utter an F-bomb before I'm done. There was a time in my life where teaching was probably not in my career. I pulled down a whopping 197 at Wazoo.
Yeah.
To get a C at Wazoo requires you to be breathing. I was self-breathing. The Vietnam War showed up. I'm a pacifist, so the only way out of this one was driving school. I didn't care which one. I wasn't going to go to class. I had in those days, the easiest grad school to get into was law school, believe it or not. And so I applied to law school. And I had a really huge score on the law school entrance exam, and then I had my 197. And the UW rejected me twice. And on the second appeal, the greatest piece of lawyering in my career occurred. When part of the reason I got in is I told them Wazoo is a party school, and I excelled at their culture. Settle at yours too. By the way, there's still no F-bombs yet. My fraternity brothers give me a bad time because I teach at the University of Washington. I tell them that I teach at the University of Washington, so I can teach them all the wrong stuff. They accept that. Why? Because they're cougs. I'm not a professor, I'm a lecturer. When I first interviewed with Gary Sundom in 1978, he was the department chair. He asked me about research. I said, I'm not going to do research. And he said, why? And I said, because I'm not curious. But if you hire me, you're looking at one of the best teachers in the School of Business. To let you know the power that I had as director of the tax program, a few years ago they were completing the construction of PACCAR, and so we could finally choose our offices. Steve and I had been here for over 30 years, and we were down to the last 6 window offices before we got to make a choice. And so we made a choice, and our offices were next door to each other. And then 30 minutes later they came and told us that we had to choose again, because they'd given our offices to 2 people they hadn't hired yet. And they should feel proud. Starting about 3 years ago, I often got the question, when are you going to retire? I guess people had noticed I was aging. My answer always was, when I die. I like to teach. But 6 months ago, I did my syllabus for spring quarter. A syllabus for me is a time of growing. It's a new quarter, new students. It's a big deal to me. And I noticed that I was kind of bored. And that really shook me. And then a couple of weeks later, I was talking to a friend of mine, Ryan Beatty, and I told him I was thinking about retiring. And that shocked him, because he'd heard me say how many times I won't retire until I die. It was time for me to go. There's 2 reasons, really, why it's time for me to go. When I do my Goodbye Mr. Chips routine, this will greatly increase the average IQ of the accounting faculty. Also, my 2 youngest daughters were checking out a website, ratemyprofessor.com, and my middle daughter's husband is a math teacher, and on the thing, his ratings included, he's hot, he's hot and awesome to look at, he's incredibly good looking. This is what mine said, good teacher, funny. It's time to retire. No F-bombs so far. I could not be more proud of my daughters. My youngest, yes. Vanessa, my youngest, owns a business with her husband that manufactures gourmet ice pops, strawberry rhubarb pie, peanut butter and jelly, latte with a hint of donut, or some other flavors. I'm not an entrepreneur at all. She got that from her mom, Marcia. She holds 2 state records in powerlifting. I'm pretty sure that came from me. She has been voted the #1 karaoke host in Seattle by Seattle Weekly. She won the State of Washington Karaoke Championships, was flown all expenses paid to Las Vegas for the National Championships, and appeared on an ABC reality karaoke show. Alexa, my middle daughter, is a mathematician who lives in Ireland. She does cancer research. To be more precise, she told me that she creates mathematical models that predict what cells will do when ingested with various chemicals. I remember I showed her how to do that. She's also fluent in 4 languages, although 5 if you count Pig Latin. Jessica, the oldest, is also an entrepreneur. Thank you again, Marcia. She has run several businesses, as she indicated to you when she was up here. Rock and Roll Circus at the Lincoln Center, where the mosh pit got out of control, and the Lincoln Center police came down and hit them with clubs and so forth. It was in every newspaper in New York. She said, you can't get advertising like that anymore. She put a gigantic party on the Intrepid aircraft carrier in New York City. Done all kinds of things like that. Had high positions at Bergdorf Goodman and Marnie's. An eye for clothing. She got that from me. Jessica, I really want to thank you for putting this whole thing together.
Yeah.
Truly appreciate what you've done. All of my daughters have graduate degrees and colossal senses of humor. In short, their success will substantially outstrip me, and that gives me great joy. Ed Bennett, where are you? I want to thank you for bringing the equivalent of 18 cases of beer from Boundary Bay. Should be a pretty good charitable tax deduction. Francine Schaefer is my hero. Without her, I would have been cooked long ago. There's no tax program without Steve Rice. He will always be a very close friend. Many people have commented on how different our personalities are. But we share one thing in common. No, not tax. We both have a very sick sense of humor. Frank Hodge, the best department chair in my tenure. He's on a par with Julius Roller, the great. He puts up with most of my idiosyncrasies. Steve Sepchek had my back over the years, and when you behave like I do, you need that kind of help. The directors that David Cordova listed off have done a wonderful job on the transition for me leaving and Izzy coming in as the new directorship. Talk about a circle of life. On my first lecture in tax for her, she called her mother crying, and now I dump this on her. Izzy, I know this is scary, but you will nail it. You have a team working with you. I'm a better teacher now than I was 10 years ago. You're the kind of person who will always be getting better. And after all, this year you were selected Faculty of the Year in Accounting. And we'll get better over time. Oh, by the way, I've been here 38 years. I've never won that award. All you've got to do as director is just make sure you do everything exactly the way I do. About 10 years ago, I was driving down the 45th Street ramp alone, and I said out loud to myself, nobody has a better life than Bill Resler. And then I started laughing and said, but nobody would want my life. My #1 goal has been for a long time is to have fun. I do. And now for the much anticipated F-bomb. Please, no one in this room ever commit fraud.
just coming out